Hi, everyone. Welcome to People Watch, the official podcast of the People Management Association of the Philippines. Here, there are no motherhood statements, no hiding behind obsolete theories and adages, and no time to beat around the bush. Just real talk with real people. My name is Lawrence Ko, Learning and People Development Head at Mondenisin Corporation. This month's essential topic, as I've mentioned earlier, is rest and recreation. And we've got a must talk or a must discuss line up for today in terms of the questions that we have prepared. Joining us to talk about this particular topic is the Senior Director for Wellness Plus Resiliency of TaskUs. And I'm very, very excited in terms of the insights that she's going to be sharing with us for the remainder of the session this morning. So let's give a big round of virtual applause to Vina Paglicawan. Good morning, Vina.
Hey, Law. Hello, PMAP. Happy to be here.
There. How are you doing today, Vina?
I'm good. Started my day at around 7. So pretty good.
Fairly early. But I'm sure, no? This usually yung mga viewers natin, mga listeners natin, no, they usually block this time off, no, out of their busy schedules, no, out of their hectic schedules and workloads, no, to really know more, no, about how they can improve yung mga proseso nila, no, and then at the same time, no, get best in class, no, best in industry insights. And I'm sure they're very excited to hear from you today, Vina.
Yeah, happy to contribute.
Okay. So of course, no, the first thing that we usually ask our guests now, and we're very excited to have you today, would be to perhaps give us more insights, no, some insights about what you do in TaskUs, and perhaps, no, you might also use this opportunity to give further introduction about your organization.
Yeah. So TaskUs, if you have not heard of us, we're a business process outsourcing organization. We have 10 sites in the Philippines with more than 50,000 employees across the globe. So our base is in Texas. We have our headquarters there. And yeah, we have around 20 plus sites across the different parts of the world. So what do? I'm Senior Director for Wellness and Resiliency for Asia. I lead the team in Asia of around, more than 50 coaches, mental health professionals, practitioners, and we take care of the well-being, specifically the mental health well-being of our employees. I'm not sure if some of you would remember because I presented also in the PMAP Cebu conference. So yeah, happy to reconnect with some of the people who were there in the concurrent session that I did in PMAP. So yeah, that's what we do. We take care of our employees' well-being. And I've been in TaskUs for, it's going to be 4 years in June already. Yeah. I was a pandemic hire.
And I'm pretty sure, no, na perhaps a good majority of our listeners, no, would have already heard about TaskUs, and then second, no, perhaps were able to join us in the PMAP AC last year in Cebu.
I will never get tired of speaking for the employee well-being and how we as organizations should really prioritize our employees. No, parang I know I'll be preaching to the choir, but sometimes it's a matter of remembering, not forgetting, and being reminded of how important it is.
That's right. And I think it attests, no, na the things that you've been sharing really are indeed best practices kasi they can survive, no, yung year on year na changes in the organizational requirements, no, and of course the needs of our people. So very, very excited to ask them again, Vina. I have a couple of questions, no, for
Nakabahan ako couple of questions.
Yes. And these questions would usually come, no, from the conversations that we've been having with fellow members in PMAP, no. Kasi as you would know, this has been like workplace well-being. Hot topic yan eh, no? Even prior the start of the pandemic, and nag-peak ulit yan when the pandemic started, no? And then right now, it's still an ongoing conversation. So I have a couple of questions coming from our members, no? And we're excited to hear some of your thoughts and insights, no, about these. Given the context of the spike of organization spending for health and wellness or for rest and recreation initiatives during the pandemic, no, our members are interested to know, no, given that you have a lot of offices across the globe, no, so you might have had insights, no, of what we call perhaps informally state of workplace well-being. No? So now that we are post-COVID, no, siguro one of the questions that people are asking, no, is spending towards health and wellness initiatives going down? Or perhaps there might be some trends that you might want to share with our fellow PMAPers.
Yeah. Thanks, Lona. Siguro before, or maybe I would move away from the concept muna of cost. Unahin ko yung needs, right? So, to your point, in the middle of the pandemic, we heard a lot of concerns about mental health, about well-being. And then after, I wouldn't really say after, right? Some would say that we're still in the middle of the pandemic. We're still in the middle of COVID because there are still cases. Hindi na nga lang ganun kadami, right? So, post-COVID, for lack of a better term, I'd say there is still a need for well-being. Medyo nag-iba siguro yung flavor, but the need is, I would like to acknowledge that the need is still there. Because if you remember, and I'm sure a lot of our HR folks would be able to connect with this, post-COVID, a lot of organizations started to regroup, diba? We've heard a lot of organizations who have restructured. We've heard a lot of organizations who have transitioned, right? Alam natin, yung iba noon, we could not even think of a world where work is done at home. But then COVID reminded us, hey, pwede. And then post-COVID also, we saw a lot of work also being being transitioned to artificial intelligence. Nakita din natin yun. Nakita din natin, apart from companies regrouping, restructuring, we also saw, unfortunately, a lot of redundancies, right? We saw a lot of organizations maybe even saying, oh, you know what? We don't need this job or this role at all. Pwede naman palang i-condense or pwede naman pala itong i-outsource, right? And as a result, we have employees who probably lost work, right? Of course, that's unfortunate. Okay? Some employees also had to shift careers. Some employees had to transition out of the workforce. I also remember that a lot of my friends have moved to the provinces. No? Kasi sabi nila, pwede naman pala itong gawin from the provinces. So essentially, they changed work, right? And of course, with the redundancies, attrition, the transitions, usually nakakalimutan natin dyan yung naiwanan ng trabaho. Yung dumami yung trabaho because another role has been added to their current role. Okay? So now, a lot of studies are also showing that we have a stressed workforce dahil mas dumami yung load or naiba yung trabaho. Or altogether, iba na yung ginagawa nila. Or maybe another job was given to them. So with that kind of scenario, and of course sa Pilipinas, alam naman natin ang favorite topic natin, traffic. In fact, may mga employees akong nakakausap, not necessarily in TaskUs. Sabi nila, medyo dumoble yung work stress, then dumoble din yung stress going to work. No? Especially if you're a commuter. No? Maraming nabago sa commuting patterns natin. At mahal na din medyo ang transportation ngayon. Especially if you're taking yung ating mga dedicated transport services, right? So, having said that, I'd say the need is still there. Maybe it has changed, right? Maybe the requirement has changed, right? Pero nandoon pa rin yung need for a supportive environment where mental health and workplace well-being is a top priority. Now, are companies spending more or less? Depende kasi law on what they are doing to support the need. Diba? Alam naman natin that there are some progressive organizations who have probably already suddenly, meron na silang EAP as a result of the pandemic. If before the pandemic, they were not even having EAP or Employee Assistance Program, just to make sure the abbreviation is calibrated, baka mamaya hindi pa masyadong aware yung ating audience on that. So, after pandemic, I've seen organizations sign up for employee assistance programs. I've seen organizations also hire well-being consultants, well-being coaches. We've seen organizations double up on their counseling availability ng vendors nila. Dumami na rin yung mga apps, no? We also have HMOs offering also physical well-being, yung mga coaches, so that they can help their employees regain and even maybe refocus their well-being. So, siguro, as long answer to your question, for those organizations who have made the decision as a result of the pandemic to invest more in well-being, baka they have more spending now. But I would also say that there are some organizations that may have spent something on workplace well-being during the pandemic, pero after COVID, okay, tapos na, wala na tong programa na to, and maybe they're not spending anymore. But I'd like to emphasize that now, kahit tapos si pandemic, there is still a growing need for us to take care of our employee well-being. And I'll never get tired of saying that.
That's great insight, Vina. No, thank you for sharing, and I think that would also validate some of the experiences, of our fellow PMAPers. Kasi ako just personally, I've seen in just the last couple of months, we were able to see perhaps a longer list of potential third-party partners or vendors that are providing services that were not existent prior to the pandemic. So your insights validated some of my experiences, and I'm sure some of our listeners and viewers would also have that. And it's very critical for us in PMAP and our members to get these insights so that we can have conversations that would go much deeper when we talk to our executives, for example, or our partners in the line, yung mga line managers natin, mga people managers natin.
Yeah.
So the last part of your response, very, very critical, and a really good reminder for organizations, especially for those that are working in human resources, and are really at the forefront of pushing these people programs. So thank you for sharing that, Vina.
Yeah, totally agree. Because our department started 9 years ago. We didn't start in the middle of the pandemic. So the Wellness and Resiliency Department of TaskUs has been here for the last 9 years. To your point, ang dami ng providers now. We remember, 8 years ago when we were looking for vendors, wala kami mahanap. Na local, ha? Right? And even foreign vendors, we were also very careful because back then, the majority of our employees are in the Philippines. So we wanted a local provider. We had to even convince back then existing providers na hindi mental health to extend mental health services to us. And then during the pandemic, siguro mga bandang 2021, 22, wow, ang dami ng providers, which is great. Kasi now our organizations should have more options rather than being confined with just one provider, diba? So it's really, there is a need, to your point, a growing need, and I think a lot of organizations and vendors and potential vendors who are trying to set up are realizing that.
Yeah. And so para isa pala kayo sa mga pioneer clients who's asking and who have started the demand for such EAPs, kasi marami na nga rin mga employee assistance programs wherein it's just plug and play, parang in the past you have to get the vendors and then you have to formulate your own EAP, but now we've been seeing in our emails, and some of the calls that I've been participating in, it's a plug and play EAP, so just get them onboarded and then they just do everything end to end, which is amazing. And hearing that you've been doing this, even before the pandemic, perhaps would give encouragement. Vina, perhaps we're still in the same. I'm still on the same topic of demand. So demand, and we were talking about earlier organizations, having that demand in the external marketplace. But on the same topic, how are employee expectations? So are they expecting a similar number, perhaps in terms of like quantity, or even quality of company-sponsored or company-driven workplace well-being programs? Kamusta yung expectation nila? Kamusta yung participation even? Are people still participating? Or are people now looking for other means to improve their wellness, well-being without really being reliant to the programs that we've initiated during the pandemic? What are your insights about that?
Yeah. So based on what you said, I'm actually hearing two things. Sabi mo, how are employees' expectations in terms of mental health and well-being? The second thing I heard was about participation.
Mm-hmm.
So let me maybe tackle first the expectations, right? So I've seen a lot of studies. In fact, I've been, because in my LinkedIn profile, I follow a lot of those studies. I've seen a lot of studies where the expectations and of employees of their next organization or the kind of organization they want to be part of, or maybe even expectation nila sa current company nila, is that a company that puts employee well-being as a priority. Very glaring yung study na yan, Middle post-pandemic, yun yung nakikita ng maraming studies when that was not even mentioned prior to COVID. Before, it's about stable culture, high-paying job, a great leader. Now, added to that list, they're still there, pero very glaring yung moving up. Parang first or second choice siya even about how the organizations are supporting their employees. So we can see there what the real expectation is of the employee, of the market, yung ating employees who are looking for their next organizations. In fact, our recruitment team would sometimes tell me that when employees ask them, or when candidates ask them, what benefits do you have? When our recruitment team would say, oh, we have internal coaches, they would be very interested. May counselor po ba? Or aalagaan po ba kami? Alam na nila yung EAP ngayon. Dati walang candidates na magtatanong na may EAP po ba? Ganon. So wow, nagugulat yung recruiters namin now. Meron pa nga daw minsan nagtatanong, yun po bang mental health act ginagawa ng kumpanya nyo? Wow. So in terms of expectation, when it comes to awareness, kamalayan, meron silang certain expectation because they already know what they need. The second part of your question is, post-pandemic, are employees still participating dun sa mga employee well-being programs? Now speak for TaskUs, and maybe our audience or other organizations can chime in. I've seen that yung need namin ng pandemic, okay, are now different. Iba na yung need sa mga employees namin. Okay? And we also had to shift gears. We also had to do some transitions in our programming. Because pandemic, lahat virtual. Post-pandemic, when our employees started to go back on site, may mga naririnig-rinig na kami comments, pagod na po kami sa virtual. Pwede pong on-site naman, So what we did was that we still kept the virtual because we have what we call, as an example, we have a virtual quiet space where we just open our Zoom and people who work from home Employees who want to join us from other locations can just enter the room and we do guided meditation. 5 minutes. No? Parang come in, go out. Ganun lang yung gagawin ng employee. Log in, pasok, labas. Simple. Our coaches lead the meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Pero sabi ng iba, pwede pong magka-online, on-site version. You know? So, there are times in the day that we just open our meditation rooms, and our coaches are there. Whoever is available can join in the meditation and then they can continue with the rest of their day. Right? So, in terms of participation, we really do not have a way to compare. No, mas mataas ba, mas malaki. Pero kasi when our employees started to go back to work, we also changed our programming. Binago na rin namin yung programming namin to accommodate the changes because we still have employees who are working from home, but we also have a lot of employees who are now on site. No, even the topics, no, binago na rin namin, and also we follow monthly themes also, no, ganun kami ka intentional when it comes to mental health. So, for example, there are months that we speak about trauma and the brain. There are months like since April is autism awareness. We just had our programming on understanding autism and how can you help each other. How do you know someone is in the spectrum? No, for as an example, and how do you accommodate that person? Kasi hindi naman kami nagdi-discriminate in hiring people with autism. And even some of our candidates would declare, I'm in the spectrum po. Ganon ka-open yung conversations. And our recruiters are aware that they are not to discriminate people. No? Lalo na we also appreciate people who declare, I have a diagnosis po. Ito yung diagnosis. We welcome them, right? As long as they can do the job and do it well. Yeah? So, ganon kami ngayon nag-shift ng programming namin. May on-site and meron ding virtual.
There were a lot of insights from that response, Vina. No? So even at the applicant level, no, as you've been saying, they are now that aware, no, and are conscious of the value, no, that workplace well-being programs or employee wellness and the well-being programs, no, hinahanap na nila. Nandun pa lang sa applicant stage. And of course, once they're already in the organization, of course, they would be asking for them. And I don't know if I've encountered other organizations that would also have like meditation rooms. So it's a good thing that you're able to mention that, no? Because I think going into the conversation perhaps of like spending, no, there might be organizations, as you've mentioned, no, that they would want to continue their commitment, no, to supporting workplace well-being, but they're now at the stage of trying to identify, okay, what then could we do? How can we use our resources? No? And perhaps that concept, no, of having a meditation room could be helpful, no, especially for the mental well-being and wellness of our employees.
Thank you for highlighting that law, no? Kasi minsan, we have organizations na akala nila they need to have a department like us. That may not be the need, no? And I'm not here to advocate that you set up your own department. No, wellness, well-being, kanya-kanyang need yan. And also, it really depends on what this organization want. What can the organization afford? You start with the question on spending, because keeping a department like ours is not cheap. Because we hire professionals, we hire certified individuals. I'm a credentialed coach myself, right? So we need licenses to keep this one going. Right? And hindi yun ang priority, maybe, or hindi yun ang need, at hindi yun ang kaya ng ibang organizations. When you highlighted na, let's do it with what we have. No? And part of that would be existing spaces that we already have. Practical in conversation. I was just listening because I always listen to American Psychological Association, my podcast sila. No? I would strongly advocate for you guys to listen to that Spotify podcast. The title is Speaking of Psychology. No? Every week, they have guests who speak of really practical applications of psychology, HR, OD, and everything. One of my favorite podcasts there talked about how we can convert existing spaces to spaces that would support mental health in communities, in organizations. Providing a special place where employees can just converge, gather, and maybe not talk about work and just relax. Ang laking bagay, no? Putting some plants, putting a grass carpet, having some bean bags there, where employees would just feel safe talking to each other. Ang laking bagay. We just really have to be creative. And I really appreciate that episode. It's really challenging us communities, to think of how else can we create spaces where employees feel safe and feel connected and get connected with each other. Sobrang laking bagay. No? Pre-pandemic, meron kaming virtual reality goggles. Hindi mo na namin pinapagamit. Ayaw ng facilities. Kasi hindi siya magandang gamitan for now. Baka magpasapasahan ng mga viruses. But some employees would borrow that and just may mga meditation and yoga kasi sa loob na nakaload sa virtual reality. So preventative and reactive care it works for us. That's number one. Okay. The second thing I'm going to highlight is that what has worked for us also is beyond what my department does in wellness and resiliency is the fact that leaders actually are the culture champions of organizations. And it's very important that leaders allow psychological safety and champion and demonstrate psychological safety in their organizations. No? Ano ba yung psychological safety? Psychological safety is an agreement in organizations that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to apologize. It's okay to speak up. Okay? And it's okay to ask for help. When leaders encourage psychological safety, baka hindi nyo na nga kailangan talaga ng mga katulad namin. Kasi the leaders themselves would be talking to their employees, having meaningful conversations with them. Baka you just need us to train the leaders, which is what we do. We just equip the leaders. Hey, what is psychological first aid? This is what you say when an employee comes to you. Because again, we have thousands of employees. Ang first stop dapat niyan leaders. So when leaders encourage conversations, when leaders encourage safe spaces, when leaders are okay with their people taking leaves, minsan hindi maka-leave man lang ang mga tao or binabawi ang leave. So paano naman magiging okay ang mental health ng mga tao kung leave ko na nga, tinatawagan mo pa ako? Diba? So what I'm saying is, leaders actually, sila yung dapat nagpa-promote ng mental health or nagpa-promote and safety in organizations. Diba? And we have a lot to do about that. As HR practitioners, we need to equip our leaders. I'm not going to say that all our leaders in TaskUs are doing that. We continue to educate them. We continue to equip them. Right? Mahirap. Kasi it goes with leadership. No? Some people signed up for leadership without even realizing that they actually are supposed to take care of others, unfortunately. Diba? So yeah, let me stop there and maybe you have something to say.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good reminder, Vina, no, that at the end of the day, we hindi lang siya trabaho, ika nga ng HR, hindi lang siya trabaho ng mga professionals in the well-being space, but really, every leader has to have that hat, has to wear that hat, that they themselves should be the champions of resiliency, should be the champions of health and well-being. And that's, again, a really good reminder, so that for us, majority of us would be coming, by that, I mean, our listeners and viewers, would be coming from the HR practice, So it's very important that we put as one of our top agendas, how can we equip than our leaders, so that they would be empowered to also do that, for their respective departments, and their respective teams. That's really, really a very important reminder that you just shared, Vina. So thank you for that. Just to give this time for you, to share any perhaps call to action, or parting words to our PMAP members and even non-members alike, kasi we also have non-members that are tuned in, to our various social media channels. So what call to action, can PMAP members take, so that we can, or do rather, so that we can take better care of the Filipino workforce? Any parting words that you have there?
And I think it's always my theme. I just said it, siguro i-emphasize ko lang, no? Kasi for me, there's nothing more important than for every organization to remember this. Minsan we try to complicate, or marami tayong masyadong iniisip, well-being, wellness program, setting up department, and then we end up not doing it kasi of the cost. Diba? We get discouraged. Ang laking trabaho. Meron bang ganong makahire? Or how do we even sustain that? Yun lagi yung iniisip ng madami. So I just want to encourage and invite and maybe even challenge the HR practitioners, and to your point, even non-HR people, maybe CEOs listening today. You don't have to have a department like what we have in TaskUs. Maybe this is not what you need, right? We have this because we believe in the value of having this, and we've been doing it in the last 9 years. I would instead challenge you to look at your culture. Revisit the leadership practices that you do in the organization. Challenge even how you do things in the organization. No? Simpleng-simple. Leave approvals. Do employees need to do multiple approvals para lang maka-leave ng one day? Think about it. Or do we have auto-approved leaves that they don't have to explain to anyone because they're too ashamed to tell someone what they're going through right now? And may leave credits naman ako, baka pwede ko namang auto-approved para lang ma-save yung face ko to share with you something I'm going through that I'm not ready to share. Simpleng-simpleng respeto and confidentiality sa tao. No? Which, by the way, if you go to the Mental Health Act, we're now being asked to have mental health leaves. Right? So, revisit the simplest process or leadership practice that we have and challenge yourself. Are we adding to the stress of our employees, or are we supporting them? Are we making it easy for them to work? Or are we making it difficult for them to even show up at work? No? I strongly believe that our Filipino workforce are very good individuals. And I believe they deserve better workplaces. Naniniwala ako that they deserve better and that they deserve more because they have so much to offer. Right? And I'll leave you with this thought na nakakatuwa kasi in my previous talks, lagi kong sinasabi to. And then I met at least 2 people in some of the events that I attended. And sabi nila, there's one thing you said that has resonated with our CEOs and our HR people. We have 2 CEOs kasi, co-founders sila. They're both Americans. So one thing that one of them said the most that stuck with us in the team is this. There's always a cost to doing something and doing nothing. Decide today which one you would invest in, which one you would pay for in the future. Right? And we have kept that. Mental health is expensive. Mental health programs is expensive. Hiring a team is expensive, but we'd rather invest now than pay the cost down the line. So, I hope that made sense. So, Alon.
Yeah, very, very powerful insights. No, thank you so much, Vina, for your time and for all of the things that you were able to share. In the last hour. Thank you to the people behind the scenes for making this happen. My name is Lawrence Ko of Mondinis Incorporation, and this is People Watch, where perspectives matter. See you again on the next episode. Goodbye, everyone.